friends.
What's up?
What's up?
What's up? Welcome, everybody.
To another week of Case File
With Kat.
and Ashley.
Ooh, spicing it up there.
We're getting it down after
18,000.
2,000 episodes.
Oh my God, if we make it to 2,000 episodes, I don't know. Everyone's going to be like, yeah, covered everything. It's over.
With the crazy world, I highly doubt
I
it.
know. I don't know we'll ever run out.
Look at that can art. I love it.
So we're already talking about my drink.
I'm sorry because the artwork is just so amazing.
So y'all have heard me drink from the Yellow Rose from Lone Pint Brewery, and Yellow Rose I just love. Beautiful can art. That's probably one of my favorite paintings. I just think it's such a beautiful can art. But this is another one, and it's called Zythophile, Zythophile, and that is also from Lone Pint. It is delicious. It's a smash IPA.
I don't know what that means.
I don't
fancy.
really, it's just fancy. No, but it's really good. It's, I mean, as much as I love Yellow Rose, and I love Yellow Rose, like this is a pretty good, she's looking at her, her can
I was
art.
seeing where it came from.
Lone Pint Brewery is out of Texas. So another Texas beer. Yep.
I'm drinking Red Bull it comes from Santa Monica, California, everyone.
Because it gives you wings?
Yes, it does. Because I am having a life crisis. That's where I am. So life without a cell phone is very difficult. I don't
understand it.
I did not realize how dependent I was upon my smartphone. But I haven't had it since Friday afternoon, and I lost all my contacts, all my messages, all my notes, which makes me really sad. Everything. And my new phone won't be here until like tomorrow, Friday. Who knows where it is in this universe.
I told Olivia, I was like, Ashley's having a tough week. She hasn't had a cell phone. And she's like, what?
I know.
I was like, I don't know.
I mean,
that might be nice.
I was like, it might be nice, right? People can't call me, which is like my favorite thing.
Right.
But then I'm like, my whole
business
depends on being on social media networks and the internet and
all the time
and emails and stuff. And so it's just, if I'm not right in front of my computer, I can't answer emails. I can't see my work phone calls unless I'm like logged into the app on my computer. And so it's just been a terrible mess. And I feel like clients think I'm lying when I'm like, I don't have a cell phone.
They're like, what's wrong with you? This is your business.
Yeah.
Wow.
So anyways, that's been my fun time. So I am chugging a Red Bull because it vitalizes your body and mind. And I definitely need that for my work I have to do this evening. I don't know, but that's what the can says. So,
all right. Well, I have a Monster in there in case you want to take that with you too. I mean,
This doesn't do it for me. I don't know what will.
Well, yes.
So I did have a question of the week. It is one we've asked before, but I thought the answers last time were so great. And I always love hearing people's answers because they're so crazy. And we didn't have
funny
as many
and crazy.
We didn't have as many as last time, and that's okay. I still like the answers we did get. And then of course, Sarah. So
okay, so what's the
I guess that would be helpful. The question of the week was, if you were going to go on a killing spree, what would the song be? Like, what would your theme song be of yours?
Man, I don't even remember what I answered last time. Part of me thinks it was that happy song by Because I'm Happy, Clap Along.
Maybe. I really don't remember.
I feel like it's something happy.
I don't think necessarily know if you had an answer last time.
I don't know. That's one of them. But the song that actually, I feel like that's why I answered last time, but the song that actually popped right into my head, like right when I thought of the question, was that song, the Funny Farm song, They're Coming to Take Me Away. They're coming to take me away, haha. They're coming to take me away, ho. That song like scared me when I was a kid, but it's so like marching
Yeah.
sounding that it's just bizarre. And I just feel like if I was on a killing spree, that's probably what I would be or feel like aha, I'm going crazy.
Last time, and it would still be this time, but I kind of wanted everyone to do new answers. So everyone knows mine would be tiptoeing through the tulips. I love that song. I love it just normally. I listen to it, like not even on killing sprees. I just listen to it because I'm weird. Yes. Don't bother me right now. I'm listening to my serial killer playlist. Thank you. But in an even more psychotic twist.
Hashtag.
It would probably be "We've Got It Going On" by Backstreet Boys. Because if you listen to the lyrics, I mean, it's kind of like they,
Sing it for me.
I'm not singing. I'm not the Backstreet Boys. I can play it for you, on my fancy laptop here.
The only Backstreet Boys song that I can even like start to hum is like "I Want."
Oh my gosh, no! I love Backstreet Boys. I was obsessed, and I still am. But "We Got It Going On" is like talking about creeping around. And
that's your computer.
My computer does not make a sound. My sound is off.
That's not.
And I don't have a phone.
That is not my phone. My phone does not make that sound.
Well, then your house is haunted.
It came from over there.
Okay, but I'm telling you, I don't have a cell phone, and this computer is on silent.
We are scared now. I've got candles.
Protection,
but they're
interrupted my Backstreet Boys rant. I love Backstreet Boys, and anyways, that song would definitely be my jam because like I dance to it and stuff when it plays in the office, and so yeah, I just feel like that would make me happy on my killing spree.
Y'all, I've never seen Ashley dance.
Well, no one sees me dance. I do it in my office. Good Lord.
Do you do like the overbite?
I do it all. I do it all. I get into it.
Okay,
move around in my chair.
We are gonna put the Sarah segment.
Oh yes. And while I'm pulling that up, I would just like to announce we are 10 followers away on Facebook from having 666 followers. So I just thought I'd like to point that out to people.
Ooh, make it happen, people. Make it happen.
Also, y'all have both commented on my shirt. I have a Buc-ee's Halloween shirt. I have a Buc-ee's shirt for every season, and my office is already decorated for Halloween. Like you walk into my office and it's just Halloween everywhere.
I'm ready.
And it's my favorite time.
I know.
Of the
year.
It's
the most wonderful time.
If people can celebrate Christmas 10 months, I can celebrate Halloween for two.
Hey y'all, it's Sarah back at you this week with another Sarah segment. Anyways, I just had to say I loved y'all's show last week. It was incredible hearing her story. And y'all did such a great job. So bravo. Loved it. And I really don't have much to say, so I thought I would answer the question of the week. And literally the only song that comes to mind is "Let the Bodies Hit the Floor." Like that raging crazy song. I can't think of anything else. And I wouldn't be surprised if other people answer that as well. So anyways, can't wait to hear this week's show. Talk to y'all soon. Love you. Bye.
Thank you, Sarah, for leaving another fabulous voicemail. We love our Sarah segment. We don't know what the show would be without it, so, thank you.
I love that. And now I have let the bodies hit the floor. Yeah, that's a good one. That's a good one, Sarah.
Yeah, I don't know what that sound is because my computer was on silent. So, anywho, we're just going to pretend it's not happening and just, ignore whatever spirits live here. Mm-hmm. Because when I tell you the story tonight, it's not going to help the fact that your house is making random sounds. Oh, hey, Louie.
Whatever website you have open is binging at you.
I don't have a website open. I have my Word document.
Something.
And my laptop is on silent. Anyways, let's go. So when I read this story, I was like, absolutely not. No way is this a true story. No way could anyone believe this story. I thought it was like going to be a fake, like I was going to read all of it and then it was going to be like, haha, just kidding. I thought that it was going to be like some movie plot, which it was made into a movie, but it's not a very good movie. But I didn't know that at the time. Anyways, but it's a real story. I And I'm not even gonna lie. For a large bulk of this story, I'm gonna quote a lot of what the investigators said and what some of the other articles about it said, because the original story is just fucking insane.
Oh my God.
And it's like I don't think I could add any real flair to it, because it's like one of the craziest unsolved mysteries I've ever heard.
Wow.
And if this happened to me, I don't know that I would have been able to tell my story, because I probably would have died of a heart attack.
Oh my God. And so
fun times.
So no need to embellish what is already crazy.
Correct.
Yeah. So
correct.
Oh God.
And if you already think your house is haunted, I don't know if you would want to listen to the story.
Sarah.
Okay. See, now that was me. That time was me. I will admit to that one, because I did not turn the sound back off. Okay, but before that, it was not me. So don't look at me like that. Anyways, okay. Question. Have you ever just been like chilling in your bathroom and suddenly you look over and you just see blood oozing out of the floor and the walls?
Yeah, that would be a no.
Okay, well, what a boring life you must live. Because in this story that I'm discussing tonight, that is exactly what happened. I am discussing the bleeding walls of a home in Atlanta, Georgia. Yes, Kevin. Yes, Kevin. So let me set the mood for you.
How can you set a mood after a question like that?
Oh, I will. Let me just dive in. It's a late foggy night in September of 1987.
In September.
I wasn't even one yet.
Oh my God, shut up.
You are sitting in a warm bath to relax after a long day. The house is quiet. Everything is going as expected. You close your eyes for a brief moment, just taking in all of the peace and quiet. And then you open your eyes to see blood oozing down your white walls, seeping through your wooden hallway floors, splattering across the living room carpet, and into every crack and crevice of your 6-room brick home. So you may be thinking, Ashley, that's impossible. Well, maybe it's a bad horror movie. Well, that is exactly what happened for 77-year-old Minnie Winston.
And she didn't die from a heart attack?
No, ma'am. Her and her husband lived at 1114 Fountain Drive in Atlanta, Georgia. Minnie had been soaking in her bathtub, something she did to escape the stress of caring for her husband. She got out of the tub, and as she walked, she stepped into a red puddle. It appeared to be bubbling up through the tile floor right at her feet.
Oh my God.
She was confused at first and later recalled, I didn't get scared because I didn't know where it was coming from. But then the fear overcame her because she realized it looked like blood. And her first thought was that something had happened to her husband, Willie, and that he may have hurt himself. He was kind of in ill health. He was frail. He was pretty much always in his bed due to his old age, and because he had to be hooked up to a dialysis machine a lot of the time. So she thought, well, maybe he hurt himself. And I just want to mention a side note here that, and I'll talk more about it later, but Minnie did say that their house was not only locked, but there was an alarm set. So no one would have been inside the house but her and her husband.
And had anybody entered, the alarm would have
Correct.
tripped. Okay.
Anyways, so fearing that Willie had hurt himself, she ran out of her bathroom and into the hallway calling his name, searching for any sign of what may have happened. When she got into the hallway, she instantly froze. The blood-like substance was everywhere, along the baseboard, and it smeared across the walls. Dime and silver dollar droplets splattered everywhere around her. That's around the time a geyser of blood shot through the wooden floor, projecting out as though the home was nicked in an invisible artery, further spreading and painting the hallway red. She said it was like a sprinkler of blood when she later talked to the police officers.
That is quite the beginning of a story.
And we are in paragraph 2. We're on page 1 of 8.
It gets better, right?
I mean, I guess it depends on your definition of better. So by this time, Willie got out of bed. Puddles had settled like a red lake everywhere. These are all straight descriptions from both Minnie and Willie. Both of them stood in the hallway, and this started what everyone would later call the House of Blood that remains unparalleled in both police and parapsychology files and is still unsolved to this day. So once the shock kind of wore off, which I don't know that the shock would ever wear off for me, but Minnie and Willie had carefully began exploring their surroundings. They discovered that the blood was not only in the bathroom and the hallway, but in their kitchen and their living room as well. In 22 years of living in this home, they had never seen anything like this. They didn't see anybody in the home. The alarm was still on. Neither one of them were injured. So reluctantly, they called 911. And because of the unclear nature of the situation, the dispatcher cast a very wide net. The dispatcher called EMS, she called the fire department, they called the police officers, like they called all of these people in, because how do you respond to something that my house has got blood everywhere, but I don't know where it's coming from, right? Like, that's a pretty...
What do you even say?
Right.
Something's happened.
Right.
But we're the only ones here.
Yeah. So that's a little bit of background on the house and how that all got started. But I wanted to give you a little bit of background from the side of the investigators and the lab technician that worked on this case, because a lot of their articles really talked about it. And I think it's important to see kind of the situation from their side as well, because again, what the fuck do you do when someone tells you their house is bleeding and there's no body, right? Because with police officers, a lot of times it's no body, no crime. You know, they always have to have an explanation for something, and there's no explanation. So anyways, the lab tech that was working was named Brenda Dibble, and she was 28 at the time. So her father had been described as a daredevil paramedic with a rescue crew in Texas that would help wayward souls stranded on mountains and hiking trails. This is what Brenda this is what made her want to get into a similar line of work and help people in other ways. So Brenda had just started working with the Atlanta Police Department's major cases squad, and she would describe most cases as routine and grim. She was a blood tech, so most of what she did was collect samples and look for patterns. She was like a non-serial killer version of Dexter. So on this particular night, the squad was celebrating a birthday in the office. It was kind of a quiet night for Atlanta, she said, which was very rare that it would be quiet. The phone rang and a detective answered. It was the fire department. They had received a call about Minnie's house. The fire department then called the detectives. In later interviews, one of the detectives that was present, named Steve Cartwright, would document his reaction. He said he asked the detective that answered the call, how did the couple explain it? To which the other detective shook his head and said they couldn't. So the squad, including Brenda, headed to Minnie and Willie's home. EMTs were already on the scene. They were wanting to check both Minnie and Willie to see if they were injured, and therefore the unwitting source of the blood. Though I have to say, I would think, like, if there was that much blood in the house, they would definitely know that they were bleeding out. I mean, I feel like you would have bled out and died by that point. But they had to make sure.
And
so,
it was all over the house.
Crevices, baseboards, floors,
the
walls,
every room.
Every room.
Oh my God.
Anyways, EMTs determined that there was not a scratch on either of them. They determined that there was also no leak or contamination from Willie's dialysis equipment. So at this point, the property managers, a father and son both named Alfred, arrived. They were checking out the basement with flashlights, which would be a hell no for me, because if you call me and tell me that there is blood everywhere around a house, I am sure as fuck not going into the basement. I don't care. I'm not going. Just burn the damn thing down. But they went into the basement, and they're like looking around for flashlights. They're like, it has to be like a busted pipe, and this has to be like rust, water going through the rust, and this is rust leaking, because it is a common occurrence in older homes for rust and water to kind of like go down the walls and stuff and make it kind of look like blood. But this was everywhere. It wasn't just on the walls. It was like on the floors, everywhere. So there was no burst pipes. There was no kind of foreign substance, but they did find more blood stains in the basement. everywhere in the
So
house.
now everywhere in the house,
Everywhere.
upstairs,
Downstairs,
now
everywhere.
in the basement. As much in the basement, or was it
They just said blood splatters.
some? Okay. Doesn't sound like as much.
I mean, it's not like it was flooding blood,
Okay.
right? But their description basically was just there was blood also in the basement. Detective Cartwright felt like this should be an open and shut case because, again, houses don't bleed. He felt that if there was blood in the house, someone either A, put it there via entry, death, or, and I'm quoting here, a simple misunderstanding. I don't know what a simple misunderstanding leads to someone splashing blood all over someone's house.
How that's possible.
But that was one of his theories.
Oh my God.
So at this point, they began to question Minnie and Willie. Are they in their right minds? Are they crazy?
Okay, but do they see the blood?
That's what I'm saying. Like, clearly
can't
you all
ask me-
see the blood.
Are you crazy? Wait, you can ask me that, but then can I ask you?
So-
Because so do you also see what I'm seeing?
Right.
You know, it
Right.
just.
So the detective had asked Minnie about her eyesight, to which she responded, "It's fine. I know what I saw."
I'm looking at it.
The detective then questioned Willie, had the house been locked? And Willie responded, yes, and the alarm had been set. No one could have gotten inside, and I know what I saw.
Okay, but it was still there when everybody arrived?
I think they're talking about like the geyser of blood and like
Oh.
it oozing. You know what I mean? Like the whole.
God, they're focusing on one thing. Like, there's blood.
They don't, at this point, the police officers don't believe it's blood, right? No one but Minnie and Willie think it's blood at this point. So, police officers thought that maybe this so-called blood could be literally anything else but blood, such as paint,
Ketchup.
rusty fluid. Brenda, the lab tech, said she had felt unsettled from the moment she arrived at the house. She went from one space in the dwelling to the next quietly working. She took close photos of the splatter with specialized cameras. She took very meticulous details. When she prepared to go into the basement, she paused because she said she had a feeling of fear that climbed her spine as soon as she got to the basement door. And that is something the investigators started making fun of her for. They're like, oh, come on, it's nothing. Like, this is just dumb. Like, it's not really blood. But it took her a while before she felt comfortable enough to go into the basement. She was quoted.
The guy living in the walls, like your other ketchup story.
She was quoted saying, "This house gives me the creeps." Oh shit, Brenda, it's bleeding.
It's bleeding.
Like it's everywhere.
And those guys giving her a hard time probably were also fucking scared. They just couldn't admit it.
So Cartwright said he felt that this was latex paint that somehow accidentally spread around the rooms. Again, I'm not sure how that would even work. I don't understand. I guess I get that he's trying to rationalize it, but at the same time, why the hell would there be latex paint everywhere? And wouldn't the couple have known? Like, did they just? Is he saying that they just splashed the paint? Because it didn't really explain that. But anyways, it was determined the substance was in fact blood.
What?
At the labs, they determined it was in fact human blood. So once in the basement, Brenda again took details. She gathered a ton of samples of the fluid to take back to the crime lab. Once Brenda's samples had been analyzed, the reports came back rather quickly. It was in fact human blood. It was type O, and neither Minnie nor Willie were type O. They were type A. So it was not their blood. It was not animal blood. It was human blood.
And it was only one kind of blood. It wasn't like multiple.
The samples all came back type O.
Type O. Mm.
So even people who argue that this could have been rust, how do you explain the rust in water coming back as a blood type? Like, I feel like they would definitely know that.
Boom.
It wouldn't have a blood type. So naturally, this had everyone like, what the F is happening? The police started combing through records for the house, not finding any unusual activity connected with the couple, but did discover the house had a hidden history stretching far back to before the couple had lived there. The residence previously had been occupied by a man named Albert Thompson and his wife. Thompson, who was black, was a regional regional racial relations director for the Federal Housing Authority, tasked with monitoring fair practices around Atlanta. In 1950, Thompson, who was 41 years old at the time, was driving at the west intersection of Mitchell and Davis Streets with a southbound truck when a southbound truck rammed into his car. An item in the newspaper the next day listed Thomas as one of several accident victims. Thomas was rushed to the hospital and treated. He was returned to his home with serious injuries. The other driver, Dub, had severed the other driver, the one that had hit him, was named Dub and had served in the infantry in World War II. He did not have a scratch on him, and basically he was just booked for improper brakes, which he claimed caused the accident, which allowed him to walk free with a slap on the wrist. So Thomas, again, had been sent home. He was struggling through his recovery. The event was marked not only by the violence of the collision itself, but a different sort of violence, the violence inherent in the absence of consequences for the offending party. The event was completely swept under the rug, and Thomas suffered at his home from internal bleeding, wounds hidden and ignored. While this really didn't clear anything up for the officers, I did want to mention it because a lot of the research mentions the previously mentioned incident at the house's history, which I will talk a little bit more about how Thompson's death in the home and his internal bleeding and stuff comes up later when like mediums and stuff start contacting the couple. So anyways, you needed to know that story. So on September 10th, 1987, the Atlanta police held a press conference about the case, acknowledging that copious amounts of blood were found in the home, and the blood was not from either Minnie or Willie, but the police had no answers. They were quoted as saying, "It's an extremely strange situation. I've been on the force for 10 years, and I've never seen anything like that." The media, already having heard bizarre inklings about the house, starting when the first responders arrived, now blanketed the story. With the home having been locked and alarmed during the first appearance of blood, it was a twist on the classic locked room mystery, boiling down to a question of how did the blood get in? So more investigators joined the case. One detective canvassed blood banks to see if any of them had been missing supplies. These two seemed entirely secure. In fact, with the AIDS crisis at its peak during this time, blood was guarded as a precious resource. It was a second locked room mystery, not just how did the blood get into the residence, but how the blood might have gotten out of a secure location, such as a blood bank. Because that was their only theory, that someone broke into a blood bank, stole all this blood, somehow snuck into these people's homes for no reason, and put blood everywhere. That was their working theory.
That doesn't even make any sense. That's just a lot of work.
That was their theory. Okay. So new investigators had no more luck than the detectives on the scene finding any source for the blood. "We have not stopped looking," said one of these additional officers, Sergeant H.L. Bolton, "but we haven't determined that a crime was committed." The instincts of Brenda, the lab tech, had been born out of there was something more, something stranger in this story. The fact that the blood was real, as Brenda herself had proven, was just the beginning. So, of course, bleeding house, blood everywhere, it fascinates the public, right? Because they're like, what is going on? So I don't know how to pronounce this last name, Rowlett, we'll just go with that. Kurt Rowlett, 30, was a guitarist for an Atlanta cult rock band called the Tombstones. Easy to spot by his bandana and single hoop earring, Kurt was also an avid researcher of paranormal claims. He drove to the Fountain Drive to see the place for himself. People were everywhere outside the house, he recalls. There was something disquieting about the street, and he just said all of it together was just very strange. Kurt, who observed the neighborhood was kind of a rundown neighborhood. There was a kind of creepiness to it, he recalls. It's very different from the Gothic iconography. Can't say the word. Of course, you guys know I can't say this word. Iconography, you guys get it. Popular culture conditions us to associate with fear. So basically, he was saying it was very opposite of what you would think would be fear, but it did have kind of a creepy vibe to it, just because it was in a like a lesser taken care of part of town. It was not a rich part of town by any means. So anyways, rather than gargoyles, the sense of horror comes from a subtle signs of neglect and abandonment. A fire hydrant not connected to any water, or a long unrepaired pothole that is, by this point, seems like a bottomless abyss.
Was it like country-ish, or was it near the city, or?
I think it was like on the outskirts of the city,
Okay,
but it was
okay,
like
okay.
they didn't say ghetto, but it pretty much sounded like that's what they were
like
trying
the
to.
Unincorporated. This is
like the part of town where, like at this time there was still a lot of segregation, and as far as housing goes, and so this is where a lot of the very low class people lived. Even some middle class people lived here, but basically he was just saying it was a part of town that other than the people that lived there, no one else really cared to take care of.
Okay.
So Kurt did not want to disturb the family's privacy, but others were not so restrained. People crowded the Winstons' lawn and found their phone number, calling them night and day. With Willie on his usual bed rest, every time a news reporter knocked and shoved the camera past the door, Minnie had to be the spokesperson for both of them. People are coming out here to see it and troubling us, Minnie said. I haven't had any sleep today, and I probably won't get any tonight. Willie was noting of the he said, me, I'm
Willie
not
does not like this story.
I'm sorry. Willie did not like he said, I'm not bothered by it because I'm in bad enough shape as it is. So like basically he wasn't stressing about it, but he also wasn't the one that had to talk to reporters and stuff. You know, that was all falling on Minnie. So a dangerous situation arose from their lockdown. If Willie, already frail, had to go to the doctor, he rightfully could be afraid to leave, or an emergency simply not be able to be reached. I'm worried about him in all of this, commented a friend who usually drove Willie to the hospital for appointments. He is not well. The postal worker assigned to the Winstons' block was quoted, he was quoted saying they were good people. He would tell those who asked, private people who did not seek attention, they were to be trusted. Whatever was happening, he said, matter-of-factly appeared to be supernatural, and he did not believe that the Winstons would lie about it.
Wow.
It was noted that the blood began appearing during the lead up to the anniversary of Albert Thompson's car accident. As it happened, another anniversary, which was Thompson's eventual death on Halloween inside the home. So for believers of such tradition as Saint Januarius, is that how you say it? Now you're going to make me mess up. I said it right the first time. Januarius, it had seemed some kind of portal of pain and suffering had been jolted loose in the middle of Atlanta. Investigators privately admitted they were baffled. Every clue seeming to lead them in circles. We have absolutely no leads, the lieutenant assigned to the case announced. If we find no crime was committed, we're through with it. So basically, they just wanted to close this case and just say, screw it. The equation of blood equals crime equals investigation equals solution was not adding up for them, and it was frustrating. Poor officers who did not live in a bleeding home. But that's their process, right? Like, there's a crime committed, there's an investigation, there's a solution, case is closed. For them, this is not happening because there's no
crime.
According to them, there's no crime. So as the media coverage of the Bloodhouse of Atlanta started to spread around the world, appearing as the front page story of newspapers everywhere, Saudi Arabia,
wow,
everywhere.
So, this was in 87, wow.
Psychics and parapsychologists circled the case. Their calls flooded the news outlets and police stations, at one point actually blowing a phone line at the police station. This place was a madhouse, said a police spokesperson.
Wow.
We were swamped with calls. One psychic pleaded to be allowed to help. I can make the blood go away.
Yikes.
For those with the deepest knowledge of theological and mythological lore who were following the twists and turns of this case. They could identify traces of supernatural manifestations of blood, a more menacing and dangerous possibility in their eyes than symbolic appearances of blood, such as those surrounding various saints. So in the Bible, the Israelites, I can't speak, people. You guys already know I can't pronounce words. Received a divine prohibition against drinking blood, warned of dire consequences. Sir Lincoln's, oh my God. Sir Lincoln's reported the presence of a demon called Rieri Yaxaya, a fiery red figure riding on a red bull who, convenient. Oh, what a tie-in. Sorry. I did not plan that at all. Anyways, a fiery red figure riding on a red bull who controlled all human blood and its diseases.
Gives you wings.
Such beast appeared under a variety of names across different lands. Another culture's incarnation called Bloodseed was a warmongering demon whose every drop of blood would sprout another demon. So, there was all of these paranormal people, all of these psychics, all these people who believed in this kind of stuff, saying like this was a portal, there were going to be demons that were coming, and this was just the beginning, and they needed to be resolved. Brenda explained to the detectives what she had discovered, that there were whispers about this house being a setting of a supernatural activity. The case was going in circles, perhaps because it called for an investigation not only into what was known, but into the unknown. Of course, the police were like, no. But a change uprooted the case. Having been so eager to solve it initially, the police abruptly began to distance themselves. They aired their infighting in public, accusing the various blood processing labs of having delayed testing and depriving investigators of additional information. Questions were posed about whether the Winstons practiced any ritualistic or sacrificial religions, which they didn't. But that was one thing they said. And they also thought the possibility had been raised of whether a gang-related weapon could have been hidden inside the dwelling, in the process splattering the blood. Yes, of course it's gang-related. It's in every crevice of the house, but yes.
Okay.
The word hoax had been thrown around. One anonymous police source scuffed that some adults will act like children just to get attention.
Oh my God.
Infantilizing the Winstons, parents of 3 and grandparents of many, who both had spotless records. A whispering campaign began alleging that one of the Winstons' grown daughters, who worked at a hospital, could have been responsible for planting the blood. It was said that she wanted to taint her and the family name because of like some arguments that, like, I'll talk more about it, but the family was strained. The parents and the children had a very strained relationship. Anyways, some were convinced there was by now a demonic presence at this house and begged to be in touch with the Winstons to warn them with what may have begun as a symbolic manifestation was now a violent disruption to normal patterns and could allow an entity a terrifying power over the house. The police, according to these theorists, were in way over their heads. And truth be told, paranormalists were accustomed to being dismissed by police, but to them the case's details were no new age mumbo jumbo. It was a tale old as time. There was grave danger, but there was also hope. The all-powerful Bloodseed demon, revealed ancient manuscripts composed between 200 and 400 BCE, was once defeated and could be defeated again if these people were allowed to be in touch with the Winstons. So, on Thursday, September 11th, the chaos at the Winstons came to a crescendo, putting the house under siege. Cars lined up. News cameras were everywhere. The phone kept ringing. Wow. Like I said, it was kept up. If this kept up, the Winstons could lose all that they had been trying to protect when first dialing 911. The refuge that was their home and their tranquility and safety of their golden years replaced with horror on the inside as it was on the outside. So with a fixed income, they could not just up and leave, right? They weren't working. They had a very fixed income, so they couldn't just move out of the house and just get a new house. And because of Willie's health, it wasn't strong enough for them to safely move, and especially on short notice. So they were forced, even with all of this attention and these people in their yards and the phones ringing and just day and night, all of this stuff, they couldn't leave their home. They had nowhere to go because, again, their children and them had very strained relationships, and they couldn't, they just were not they did not have the ability to move somewhere. So new appearances of...
You might have said this. Is it still continuing? Is it just there all the time? Were they able to clean it up and people are just kind of...
I'm about to talk about that. But it says, new appearances of blood could not be reported to the authorities without blowback and further allegations directed against them. One thing was clear. They could not rely on anyone, neither journalist nor police officer or their property manager or paranormal investigators. They had been treated as curiosities, as passive figures in a story, their information and level of cognition dismissed, their family placed under suspicion. Society was apt at treating senior citizens as invisible and abandoning them. So even those in the position to help, those who did believe them, like their natural ally, the young lab tech Brenda, they were now barred by police protocols. What became plain with every passing hour was the fact that no one could restore order to their situation. No one, that is, but Minnie and Willie themselves. The bloodseed demon had been on this is according to ancient texts, had been on a rampage when confronted by a powerful female figure, a warrior, who is charged with fighting back against those forces trying to destabilize divine rule. With the house surrounded from outside, Minnie and Willie took a stand inside. Their home and reputation was at stake. They would have to close whatever this portal was, the unnameable rift that channeled the pain of their community. It was a light bulb moment. To expel the presence, they would have to stage a confrontation, mustering all of the inner strength they could have, and in the process proving that they were not the weak or confused old humans that so many over the course of this ordeal had seemed to believe they were. If this menace had begun in an atmosphere of vulnerability, they could now turn the tables. So they were taking this into their own hands. They were going to face this demon and cast it out as this other female warrior did in ancient texts.
Yes. Love it.
The bloodseed demon is believed by some to be the king of all demons, and now snarls in rage at being challenged by the powerful female warrior and her allies. She charges with a long blade, slicing the beast and splattering its blood. But the drops of blood began to shift, to move, and grow, which is what led to other demons. So anyways, Minnie and Willie blocked out the growing clamor from outside. The founders of Methodism, the denomination that had in common with Brenda, had believed superstitions of the old world lurked in the form of demons. Their task became the opposite of Holy Communion, in which Christ's atoning blood and welcomed in the form of wine. The question of how blood and wine was accepted as a mystery rather than the subjected to explanations. And now in this case, the dark spiritual manifestation of blood with its own unexplained mysteries had to be repelled instead of invited. The church addressed spiritual warfare, pointing to a way out in the first passage that says, "Your enemy, the devil, prowls around like a roaring lion looking for someone to devour. Resist him, standing firm in the faith, because you know that the family of believers throughout the world is undergoing the same kind of sufferings." The book of James had added the mantra, "Resist the devil and he will flee." Willie faced his bedroom, and that bed in which he spent so much time, unmoving, struggling through dialysis, entirely dependent on others. The bedroom was feet away from the spot where the blood had come through, like the guys, like in the hallway where Minnie first saw it. "There's no blood in this house," Willie shouted. "Now get away from here." Minnie started screaming. She joined in. "I don't want nothing more to do with it, or you." She faced the living room where blood had been pouring over the baseboards. "Just leave us alone." The blood drops grew into replicas of the the blood drops grew into replicas of the blood seed demon. Now there are 4 demons, 6, 8 each. This is talking. I know it's a little confusing, but it goes back to when the blood seed demon was being attacked by the female warrior, and it was dripping blood, and those blood droplets turned into other demons.
Ooh.
And so, as Minnie and Willie are shouting at this demon to leave them alone, to have the blood go away, the reporters hear them screaming. Like they hear the screaming. They try to get inside. They assume the Winstons were directing this yelling at them, or that something else was like going on in the house. But they were actually screaming at the demons to basically leave them alone. Leave us alone. Get out of our house. We don't want you here. We don't accept that you're here. So they screamed, "Get away from here. Leave us alone. There's no more blood in this house." With power rising in the Winston's voice, something seemed to have changed. The morning fog was lifting into a sunny afternoon. The sun started to peek through. At the street, a reporter named Walter, who had been covering the story, noticed a peculiar onlooker. An elderly woman with a bright yellow scarf around her head and pink tennis shoes stood at a maple tree, focusing her gaze on the home like she was trying to peer through it. Unlike others, she wore a long of understanding rather than confusion, and eager to find out more about the oddest story of his career as a reporter, he approaches her. He asked her if she knew anything or if she could explain it all to him. So, unfazed by the question, the mysterious woman at the tree still looked up at the residents. "It's a scientific matter," she said. Then, just as Walter seemed to think he might make headway, the mysterious woman added, "I won't explain any further." So, in the original story of the sea demon and the female warrior, the warrior revealing herself as a goddess actually devoured the drops of blood as they fell, swallowing them and preventing them to turning into beasts, leaving the blood demon unguarded. And I don't know if they are tying this maybe mysterious woman in as supposed to be the female warrior watching over the house, but she was just yeah, it's a scientific matter and I'm not going to explain it to you. So she wasn't even going to talk to the police officer, the reporter. When asked who she was, the woman refused to give her name before disappearing. By that point, the house seemed to have shifted into silence. Inside, Minnie and Willie Winston were alone together, harnessing the strength of generations. Time would go by, the news cycle moved on, and the parade of people would clear out and leave the street and the neighborhood to once again be largely ignored. The walls of the Bleeding House, from accounts close to the family, never bled again. The Winstons returned to their lives as private people, sometimes spotted relaxing in lawn chairs in their backyard. Kurt, the rock and roll paranormal investigator, decided to try calling on them on the phone after things quieted down, which Minnie answered. Now, instead of saying it was blood, she said, "No, it was rust and mud. I'm sure of it," she explained when talking about what the blood had been. The answer was, of course, a deflection, considering the human blood present had been an undeniable fact, proven by multiple labs. But by this point, the Winstons were content to put the chapter behind them and say little else about it. When Kurt asked point blank whether the house had been haunted or had otherwise been a site of a supernatural event, Minnie would change the subject. Believers and skeptics, they all came to believe that Minnie was never able to share all of the horrors that they actually experienced behind the closed doors, because they just simply didn't want to talk about it anymore when they weren't believed in the first case. So anything that happened after their initial report, Minnie and Willie decided to keep that to themselves. They're like, they don't believe us anyways, so we're just not going to report it. So no one actually knows everything that happened, but they do know about them facing what they believe could be a demon and trying to close the portal, because they could physically hear them screaming and shouting and casting out the demon. And then, of course, that mysterious woman who was watching over the house. And so, anyways, there were several theories about the house. One theory is that the blood was a cruel prank by someone within the Winston family. According to many accounts, there were high tensions between the elderly couple and their adult children. Both Will, who was a dialysis patient, and his daughter, who worked at the hospital, had access to blood. One of the theories stated that Winston wanted more attention from the children, and that somehow William's reliance on a dialysis machine meant he had access to human blood. However, again, the blood in the machine was type A because it was Willie's blood. The blood found in the house was type O. The other side
there are also just so many
Yeah.
more ways to get someone's attention other than
Yeah.
like ruining your house.
Right. And then the other side of that theory was that Winston's daughter, who was a nurse, which I mentioned before, stole the blood from her workplace and flung it all around the house.
Without anyone knowing.
The reason was to have her parents declared incompetent and take over their finances. However,
dude, her feet would have been everywhere.
Well, that, and I'm pretty sure they have cameras in a hospital that would have seen her taking the blood. Like that.
Oh.
I mean, but that much blood, like you can't just like walk out.
That's
you know what I
like,
mean?
Yeah, that's not a little
like,
bit of blood.
It's like you'd have to be willing it out in a barrel. The reason was to have her parents deemed incompetent and to take over their finances. However, neither of these theories were proven because, well, I mean, the first one was proven wrong because it was not his blood. There was nothing from the dialysis machine. They could not prove that their daughter did it. Again, the house was locked and there was an alarm, and it didn't matter because it didn't prove them incompetent because people could physically see the blood there. So it's not like there was nothing to be seen. Like, that's weird. Like, you would put blood everywhere to deem them incompetent, but then when the investors came, they would still see the blood. So it didn't make sense to me. But either way, neither theory panned out. They don't know what happened. They don't understand. By all accounts, Minnie and Willie was successfully casted out, whatever was over the house, on their own because nothing else ever happened in that house. Minnie lived to be 104 and died in the home in 2015. Willie died a couple of years after the blood first appeared. And to this day, where the blood came from is still a mystery. But people that have lived in the house since then never reported it. Property managers never could figure it out. Police never could figure it out.
So they done DNA tests on the blood since?
I don't know if they've done it on it since, but they did it multiple times back then to, multiple labs to make sure it was in fact not a mistake. It was in fact human blood. So, like I said, there was a movie made about it, but all of the reviews are just awful on them. The movies look awful. There's been several releases, and I'm sure it was in the 90s.
Oh.
But yeah, no. If my wall started bleeding, I wouldn't stick around to cast out demons. I wouldn't take it upon myself. I would be out. I don't care. I'm not going to be the female warrior in some ancient text. I'm not going into the basement. I'm getting the fuck out of the house. So much power to you, Minnie and Willie, for taking it upon yourself to
what else were they going to
do this spell. I don't know.
What else were they going to do?
I don't know.
Be homeless? No.
He
has dialysis.
You can carry that machine right outside. That's all I'm saying. I'm not. I wouldn't.
He didn't own the machine. He had to go get it.
Listen, if someone wanted to come into my possessed house with a blood demon or whatever it was, like, by all means, come and get it. But there's a ton of videos you can watch on it. There's a ton of articles. There's a lot that you can read about this house. It is all factual. I mean, I don't know.
Any pictures?
Oh, yeah. Of the actual house? No. But, like, there's pictures of Minnie and Willie, and there's pictures of articles that came out during that time and stuff. But they don't have any pictures that I could find from inside the house.
There were cameras in 1987. There's no excuse.
I don't know.
Wow.
I'm not saying there's not any pictures anywhere, right?
I wonder if that
I'm
stuff's
just saying.
on lockdown.
I would say that probably the police did not release that to the news people, just because, and Minnie and Willie did not let news reporters come very far into the house. I mean, and I would assume they would have cleaned it up and not just been living in blood puddles. I
wonder if there's been like a FOIA request for the case.
Maybe, I don't know.
Hmm.
But again, it's all, I mean, I can't tell you that there was a demon possessing this house and that they actually cast it out. But according to those that were witnesses to the event, everything changed as soon as Minnie and Willie did whatever they did. Like the fog lifted, the clouds, the sun came out. There was no other incidences reported in the house. They lived peacefully until they passed away. I mean, Minnie lived to be 104. Like, so who knows what actually happened in the house? Who knows what caused it? But I mean, I don't know how you can really argue if it was type O human blood that it didn't actually happen, you know?
That's terrifying.
So, anyways, that's my story of the bleeding house.
Well, and that and the Red Bull. Amazing. Okay, so
you guys know I can't pronounce words. Like, I try to sound them out. I try to type them. I listen to them a million times and I can say it right. And then I get here to do this story and I can't say them right. Blame my father. That's all I can tell you. He had a speech impediment. I can't pronounce words. English is my first language, but I mean, it's really a country accent. So I didn't really learn words properly. I guess, I don't know if you can call it English.
All right.
I was born in a bar.
Okay, so
I mean, it was.
Just gonna use that. Okay, so answers to your question of the week. Deborah says, well, it's either welcome to the jungle or afternoon delight.
Love it.
Which is very different. Elisa says, another one bites the dust.
Oh,
that's a good one, right? I thought that was good. Okay, hold on. Let me pull this back up. Chuck says, come on, get happy, as performed by the Partridge Family. RC says, Primes, my name is Mud. Is that supposed to be Primus?
Primus, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Trevor says, a day to remember. Sometimes you're the hammer, sometimes you're the nail. Mike says, absolutely nothing, pure silence. And Sarah says, my voicemail has my answer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For anyone who forgot, by the end of the episode, if you're still listening, it was bodies at the floor.
If you've already forgotten, really, it just happened. Okay, well, everybody, if you have any story ideas, our producer was just asking us what we were doing for our Halloween episode. So if you got an episode idea for us, hit us up. And if you have any question of the week ideas, any of that, just want to chit chat, talk to us, hit us up. We're here.
Yeah.
And
if your house has bleeding walls, please contact us first.
Please contact Ashley.
Yes.
Straight to her.
Yes, I will come and do an interview in your home, but not in the basement.
She's gonna go. Make her do it. Make her do it. All right, everybody. Well, thank you for listening, and make sure to reach out to us, like us, review us, and we will see you next week. Bye.